The fluorescent lights of the emergency room buzzed like angry hornets as I clutched my split lip, tasting copper on my tongue, while Ryan loomed in the doorway, his broad shoulders blocking the exit like a storm cloud refusing to break. "You think you're tough, Walsh?" he snarled, but his voice cracked just enough to betray the tremor beneath, the one that mirrored the quake in my chest when our eyes locked for that forbidden second too long. For years later, in the steam-hazed warmth of a Seattle coffee shop, those same green eyes found mine again, and the world tilted on its axis, pulling me back into the gravity I thought ID escaped. I wiped down the espresso machine for the third time that shift, the rhythmic squeak of the cloth against stainless steel, a feeble anchor against the relentless drizzle outside. Seattle had been my reset button after college, a city of gray skies and emerald edges, where a guy like me could blend into the fog without anyone asking too many questions about the scars he carried. University of Washington had been a different beast, sprawling campus lawns that turned to mud under October rains, frat houses thumping with bass that drowned out the whispers of insecurity. I'd been Jesse Walsh back then, art major with paint under my nails and a sketchbook full of half-formed dreams, the kind that involved quiet studios and boys who looked at you like you were more than a punchline. Ryan Caldwell had been the opposite, golden boy quarterback, all 6'3" of him carved from granite and entitlement, with a smile that could charm professors and a fist that silenced anyone who didn't fit his narrative. Had zeroed in on me freshman year, during orientation week when ID lingered too long in the quad, sketching the way the light fractured off the cherry blossoms. "What tray you drawing?" "Queer bait," Head barked, snatching my book and flipping through pages of faces, mostly male, mostly idealized, mostly hidden. The laughter from his pack of teammates had echoed like shattering glass. But it was Ryan's gaze, flicking over those drawings with something darker than disgust, that lodged in my throat like a splinter. It escalated from there. Locker room shoves that left bruises blooming like ink on wet paper. Notes slipped into my backpack, freak. "Stay in the closet, or it'll bury you there." The worst was the party at Sigma Chi, sophomore fall, when the keg flowed and the air thickened with sweat and cheap cologne. ID gone because my roommate dragged me, promising it was harmless networking for my portfolio. Ryan cornered me in the kitchen, his breath reeking of whiskey, his hand clamping my wrist like a vice. "You think you're invisible, Walsh? I see you watching." His words slurred into my ear, hot and accusatory, and before I could twist away, his knee drove into my thigh, sending me sprawling across linoleum sticky with spilled beer. The room spun as boots shuffled closer. Chance of fight. Fight, rising like a tide. I curled in on myself, tasting the floor, waiting for the next blow that never fully landed because Ryan held them back, his voice cutting through the din. "He's not worth it. Let's go." I limped back to my dorm that night, the rain washing blood from my palms, and swore ID never let him, or anyone, see how deep it cut. Therapy sessions in the student health center helped patch the surface, deep breaths, journaling prompts about resilience, a prescription for anxiety that I filled but rarely touched. But the dreams lingered, twisted reels where Ryan's face softened in the shadows, his touch turning from violence to something achingly tender, only to shatter at dawn. I graduated with a BFA in graphic design, packed my beat-up Subaru with canvases and regrets, and drove west to Seattle, landing a barista gig at the Daily Grind on Capitol Hill. It was anonymous enough steaming oat milk for hipsters and flannel, sketching logos on napkins during lulls, building a freelance side hustle that paid for my tiny studio in Fremont. Life settled into a rhythm, predictable as the fairies slicing Puget Sound. Dates were rare, quick coffees with guys from apps who ghosted after hearing about my baggage, or one-night stands that left me hollow, staring at the ceiling fan, whirring like a judgmental eye. I told myself I was healing, that the past was a closed book. But some nights, alone with a glass of Pinot and my old sketchbook, I traced the lines of a face I couldn't erase, sharp cheekbones, tousle blonde hair, eyes like fractured jade. That Tuesday in October, the shop was a haven of low chatter and the hiss of milk frothers when the bell above the door chimed with unusual authority. I glanced up from grinding beans, and there he was, Ryan Caldwell, older but unmistakable, striding in like he owned the rain-swept sidewalk. Head filled out in the best way, broader at the shoulders, a tailored wool coat draped over jeans that hugged his thighs, a 5 o'clock shadow softening the jaw that used to clench in fury. His hair was shorter now, styled but not slick, and those eyes, God, those eyes swept the room before landing on me, freezing him mid-step. "Black coffee," he said to the air, voice deeper than I remembered, laced with the clipped efficiency of boardrooms. But his gaze didn't waver, drilling into me as I fumbled to pour, steam curling up like a warning. I slid the cup across the counter, our fingers brushing for the briefest heartbeat, and electricity arced through me, raw and unwelcome. "Jesse," he murmured, the name slipping out like a confession, soft enough that the barista next to me didn't catch it over the grinder. "It's been shit. Too long." I gripped the edge of the counter, knuckles whitening, the air between us thickening with 4 years of unspoken venom. "What the hell are you doing here?" "Ryan," my voice came out steady. But inside, the old fracture lines spiderwebbed, threatening to crack wide open. He didn't answer right away, just wrapped his hands around the mug as if it were a lifeline, his thumbs tracing the rim in slow, deliberate circles. The shop faded, the indie playlist crooning Elliott Smith, the clink of mugs, the couple in the corner debating craft beers, until it was just us, suspended in this fragile standoff. "I live here now," he said finally, eyes dropping to the steam rising between us. "Tech startup in South Lake Union. Moved from Austin last year." "Austin." The word landed like a punch. Texas boy gone corporate, trading Longhorns jerseys for hoodies from REI. It fit the new him, polished but haunted, like he'd outrun his demons only to find them waiting in the rearview. "And you just..." Walk into my shop. I crossed my arms, leaning back against the pastry case, the chill of glass grounding me. "Seattle big enough for both of us? Or did you GPS the one place I'd be?" He winced. A flicker of the boy I'd glimpsed in stolen moments, the one who had buried under layers of bravado. "I didn't know." "Swear it." Saw the name on the cup, The Daily Grind, and thought, hell, might as well fuel up before the meeting. A pause, heavy as the downpour pattering the windows. "But seeing you..." "Jesse, I need to say it. I'm sorry. For everything. The quad, the party, all of it." I was a scared kid lashing out at the mirror. The apology hung there, raw and unpolished, and something in my chest twisted. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But a crack in the armor I'd forged so carefully. Customers shuffled in line behind him, oblivious, and I nodded toward the pickup area. Order up. And Ryan? Don't come back. He lingered a beat too long, those green eyes searching mine for a foothold, then turned for the door, coat swirling like a cape in an old noir film. The bell chimed again, and he was gone, swallowed by the mist, leaving me with a racing pulse and the ghost of his touch on my skin. I exhaled, long and shaky, and returned to the espresso machine, but the routine felt fractured now. Every grind a reminder that some shadows followed you no matter how far you ran. That night, in my studio apartment overlooking the Ship Canal, I couldn't sleep. The city hummed below, tires hissing on wet pavement, distant horns from the bridge, while I paced the worn hardwood, sketchbook clutched like a shield. I flipped to a blank page, pencil hovering, and let the lines flow. Ryan's face, not the snarling mask from college, but this version, lined with regret, softened by time. The jaw set in quiet plea, the brows furrowed over eyes that held storms I suddenly wanted to weather. I tore the page out, crumpled it, but it unfurled in my trash bin like an accusation. By morning, the rain had cleared to a hesitant sun, gilding the Fremont trolls in bronze. I dragged myself to work, half expecting the door to stay empty, half dreading its swing. The lunch rush brought the usual, tech bros barking orders into AirPods, artists nursing matcha like it was absolution. 3 o'clock lull, and there he was again, sans coat this time, in a simple black sweater that clung to his chest, sleeves pushed up to reveal forearms corded with veins from hours in some overpriced gym. Decaf this time, he said, voice low, sliding a 10 across the counter. No preamble, no crowd to buffer. I poured in silence, the machine's gurgle filling the void, and when I handed it over, he caught my wrist gently, too gently, like handling fragile porcelain. 5 minutes, he pleaded. Outside. Please. Against every instinct screaming run. I untied my apron, told my coworker ID, take an early break, and followed him into the alley behind the shop. The air was crisp, laced with exhaust and the faint brine from the sound. Dumpsters humming with the ghosts of yesterday's lattes. Ryan leaned against the brick wall, coffee forgotten in his hand, and when he spoke, it poured out like a levee breaking. I was terrified back then, he started, staring at his boots scuffed with city grit. Dad was the coach, Mom the dean's assistant, picture-perfect Bible Belt family. And me, their all-American son, hiding who I was behind touchdowns and trash talk. You were everything I couldn't be. Opening your sketches, even if you hid the rest. So I attacked. To make the noise in my head stop, his words landed soft but heavy, each one chipping at the wall ID built. I wanted to rage, to list the nights ID cried into my pillow, the dates ID bailed on because trust felt like a trap. Instead, I whispered, "Why now? Why me?" "Because you're the only one who ever saw through it," he said, stepping closer, the heat of him cutting the chill. And I'm done running. The alley blurred as tears pricked my eyes, not from pain, but from the weight of possibility. His hand rose, hesitant, brushing my cheek, and for the first time, Ryan's touch didn't bruise. It ignited. The days blurred into a tentative dance after that. Seattle's perpetual drizzle mirroring the uncertainty in my veins. Ryan became a fixture at the daily grind, slipping in during off hours with that disarming half-smile, ordering the same decaf like a ritual. Conversations started clipped: weather, the Mariners' latest slump, the absurdity of co-working spaces charging for vibes, but thawed under his persistence, revealing layers I hadn't anticipated. Had left Austin after a blowout with his folks, the kind where ultimatums flew like confetti at a funeral: marry the girl from the church picnic or forfeit the family safety net. Had chosen exile, bootstrapping an app for sustainable urban farming that had venture capitalists buzzing. It's not world-saving, head shrug, but it's mine. No masks. I found myself lingering after closing, the two of us on stools by the window, steam from forgotten mugs tracing patterns on the glass. Had asked about my art. Genuinely. Flipping through my phone gallery of freelance posters for local bands, neon-drenched silhouettes against rain-slick streets, and murmur, "This is you, Jesse." Raw. Real. It unnerved me. How easily he dismantled my defenses. How his laughter rumbled low when I recounted botched tattoo designs, or the time ID spilled an entire urn of beans during rush. In return, Head share fragments, the pressure of Friday night lights, the secret hookups in motel rooms that left him emptier than before, the way my resilience in the face of his cruelty had haunted him through therapy sessions in Austin. One evening, as the sun dipped low over the Olympics, painting the sound in bruised purples, he invited me to his place, a loft in Belltown, all exposed brick and salvaged wood, with views of the Ferris wheel spinning lazy circles at Pier 57. "No pressure," he texted, but the subtext hummed, "Let me show you I'm different." I arrived with a bottle of Cabernet from the co-op, nerves jangling like loose change, dressed in my least worn jeans and a chambray shirt that hid the tremor in my hands. He answered in sweatpants and a faded Husky's tee, hair damp from shower, the scent of cedar cologne wrapping around me like an embrace. We cooked pasta primavera with farmer's market veggies, his knife skills surprisingly deft for a guy who'd once fumbled protein shakes. Laughter flowed freer over the stove, wine loosening tongues, until we collapsed on his couch, plates balanced on knees, the city lights twinkling like conspirators below. A documentary flickered on the screen, something about queer icons in Hollywood, but neither of us watched. His thigh pressed against mine, warm and solid, and when I turned, his gaze held that same intensity from the alley, but softer, laced with hunger. "Jesse," he breathed, hand cup on my neck, thumb tracing my pulse point. Our lips met tentative at first, a question in the brush, then deepening as I leaned in, tasting salt and surrender. His fingers threaded through my hair, gentle where they'd once gripped in anger, and I melted into it, the kiss unraveling years of what-ifs. We moved to his bed in a tangle of limbs and shed clothes, the sheets cool against fevered skin, his body a map of apologies, kisses trailing my collarbone, hands mapping scars he whispered sorries against. It wasn't frantic, it was reclamation, each touch a bridge over the chasm Wed carved. Afterward, tangled in the duvet, his head on my chest, he traced lazy circles on my stomach. "I don't deserve this," he murmured into the dark. "You." I tilted his chin up, meeting those green depths. "Maybe not then. But now, we're both trying." The weeks that followed were a montage of stolen moments, sunrise jogs along the Burke-Gilman Trail, where we'd pause at the locks to watch salmon leap against the current, mirroring our own upstream fight Rainy afternoons in my studio. Him sprawled on the floor, sketching crude hearts while I worked on a mural commission for a queer youth center. Nights at dive bars in Pioneer Square. Sharing greasy fries and stories of almost loves. His foot hooked around my ankle under the table like an anchor. But shadows lingered. A call from his sister during dinner one night. Her voice tinny through the speaker. Mom's asking when you're bringing her home for Thanksgiving. You know how she gets. Head stiffened, forcing a laugh that didn't reach his eyes, and changed the subject to pie recipes. I pretended not to notice the way his hand tightened on his fork. But it gnawed at me, the unspoken family. The world had fled, but couldn't fully escape. My own folks were ghosts. Dad lost to a mill accident when I was 10. Mom remarried to a guy in Spokane who treated me like polite furniture. No dramatic disownments, just quiet distance, the kind that erodes like acid rain. We navigated it in fits and starts. Head introduced me to his startup crew at happy hours in South Lake Union. Bearded coders and yoga pants-wearing marketers who clapped him on the back and ribbed him about finally settling down, watching me sidelong for cues, as if expecting rejection. I played along, the token barista boyfriend, but each toast chipped at the facade. "You're good for him," one engineer slurred one night, clapping my shoulder. "He's less of an asshole now." Ryan shot him a glare. But later, in the Uber home, he pulled me close. "They don't get it. But I do. You're not a phase. Jesse. You're the constant." Yet doubt crept in like fog off the sound. Late-night texts from unknown numbers, Austin area codes, left him pacing my apartment. Phone clutched like a grenade. Ex-friends, head mutter, deleting threads without explanation. And then there was the photo on his fridge, him arm in arm with a brunette at some gala, her smile radiant, his strained. "Business thing," he said when I asked, voice casual as he poured coffee. But the unease settled, a low hum beneath our harmony. It crested on a crisp November Saturday, the kind where leaves skittered like confetti down Pine Street. We'd planned a hike to Discovery Park, escaping the city's pulse for trails lined with madronas shedding bark like old skin. But as we laced boots in his loft, his phone buzzed incessantly, finally shattering the quiet. He glanced at the screen, face paling, and stepped into the bedroom, door half closed. I heard snippets, his voice low. "Urgent. Claire." "No, that's not." We agreed this was over. "Claire." The name from the photo, the one Head dodged. My stomach knotted as I eavesdropped, heart thudding against ribs. "It's fake. Okay, for the investors, the family, Jesus. You know why." A pause. Her laughter sharp through the line. "He's just some guy. Doesn't mean shit." The door opened, and he froze, seeing the hurt etched on my face. "Jesse." "Wait." But I was already grabbing my jacket, the trail forgotten, betrayal burning like bile. "Some guy," I echoed, voice cracking. "That's me. After everything." He reached for me, desperate. "She's lying. It's optics. Save it." I yanked the door open, the slam echoing like a final cut in our fragile reel. Outside, the wind whipped off the sound, carrying salt and sorrow. As I walked into the gray, wondering if I'd ever trusted the light again. Winter clamped down on Seattle like a vice. The holidays looming with their tinsel-wrapped expectations and undercurrents of isolation. I threw myself into work, pulling doubles at the grind, the steam and chatter a balm against the ache that had taken root in my chest. Freelance gigs piled up, holiday cards for a nonprofit, album art for an indie folk duo, and I lost nights to the glow of my tablet. Lines bleeding into shapes that screamed what words couldn't, fractured hearts mended with thorns, lovers dissolving into mist. Friends noticed the hollows under my eyes, the way I'd deflect with jokes about X-drama, but no one pushed. In Capitol Hill, everyone carried their own ghosts. Ryan tried. Text at first, please. Let me explain. Coffee, then voicemails. His voice rough with sleep or regret. Recounting half-stories of Claire, the arranged date for a family wedding 2 years back. The mutual agreement to pose for optics when his startup pitched to conservative VCs. It was survival, not love, had plead into the line. You're the one who sees me. I deleted them all, but they echoed in quiet moments. The pull of them a tide I fought with every fiber. Christmas Eve found me alone in my studio. Fairy lights strung haphazardly over exposed pipes. A half-eaten pad thai congealing on the counter. The city outside was a watercolor of reds and greens. Families bundled against the chill. Fairies strung with garlands slicing the dark water. I sketched by lamplight a portrait of us on that hike we never took. His hand outstretched. My back turned when the buzzer rasped. Insistent. It was him, snow-dusted and shivering on the stoop, holding a paper bag that steamed in the cold. Truce, he said through the intercom, voice muffled but earnest. Against my better judgment, I buzz him up. He filled the doorway, coat shedding flakes like tears, eyes shadowed in the low light. I know you hate the holidays, he started. No preamble. Setting the bag on my table, takeout from a Vietnamese spot Wed loved. Faux fragrant with star anise and basil. Reminds you of empty chairs. Me too. Dad always worked bowl games. Mom hosted the neighbors. Fake cheer all around. I crossed my arms, leaning against the wall. The sketchbook face down on the couch like evidence. What do you want, Ryan? To rewrite the script. To finish it. He shrugged off his coat, revealing a sweater the color of evergreen boughs, and pulled out 2 steaming bowls. We ate in silence at first, the slurp of noodles a reluctant rhythm, until the warmth seeped in, loosening knots. He talked then, unspooling the full thread, Claire's family tied to his investors. A favor turned farce with staged photos and alibis. Lasted 6 months, he admitted, chopsticks pausing. Then I ended it. Told her about you over summer. She laughed, said I was finally human. The vulnerability in his confession cracked something in me. A fissure letting light through. Why hide it from me? Fear, he said simply, setting his bowl aside. Of losing what Wed built. But you're right, I should have trusted you with a mess. We migrated to the couch. The documentary Wed ignored that night flickering on my laptop as background noise. His arm draped over my shoulders. Tentative. And I let it stay. The weight familiar. Comforting. Conversation meandered. Favorite carols, his "Oh Holy Night," mine, anything but. Worst gifts, a monogram Bible from his uncle. Dreams deferred. I'd kill for a cabin in the Cascades. I mused, head on his shoulder. Just snow and silence. No apps. No audits. Deal, he murmured, fingers tracing my knuckles. New Year's resolution. We find it. The kiss that followed was slow, deliberate, tasting of broth and forgiveness, a reclaiming softer than before, hands rediscovering paths with reverence. We made love by firelight from the space heater, bodies sinking like waves to shore, his whispers of mine and sorry weaving into moans that drown the doubts. Afterward, curled against him, the city's distant revelry a lullaby. I traced the scar on his knuckle, the one from a tackle gone wrong freshman year, and whispered, "Don't make me regret this. I want," he vowed, sealing it with a kiss to my temple. And in that moment, with snow tapping the window like applause, I believed him. Spring unfurled tentative, cherry blossoms rioting pink against gunmetal skies, mirroring the bloom in us. Ryan integrated seamlessly into my world. Mornings at the grind turned duo shifts. Him perched on a stool working while stealing bites of my scone. Weekends at the Pike Place markets, haggling over tulips and tossing fish with gleeful abandon. He met my sparse circle, a drag queen from the shop named Lark, who sized him up over mimosas and declared, "He's a keeper if he survives my trivia night," and charmed them with stories of botched Texas barbecues and his failed attempt at knitting a scarf that resembled a noose. His life bled into mine, too. Board meetings where I tag along, sketching logos on napkins while suits droned about KPIs, a gala at the Space Needle. Me in a borrowed blazer, his hand steady on my lower back as we navigated small talk about disruptive innovation. He came out to his sister over FaceTime one rainy April afternoon. My hand in his under the table, her squeal of delight echoing through the loft. "About damn time," she crowed. "Mom's gonna need therapy, but he'll handle Dad." The relief in him afterward was palpable. A weight shed, and we celebrated with rooftop beers, toasting to bridges half-burnt. But harmony breeds complacency, and fissures reemerged subtle at first. Late nights at the office stretched. His text delayed. Pitch went long. "Miss you," leaving me to dinners for one. Sketching alone. A weekend trip to Portland for a design conference. And he begged off. "Investors in town. Babe. Next time, I went anyway." Wandering the bookshelves of Powell's. The ache familiar but sharper now. Laced with love. It boiled over in May. The city awakening in earnest. Lilacs heavy on the breeze. Had promised a night off, no emails, no calls, and booked a table at Canlis, the perch above the water where flames danced eternal. I dressed up, slim black pants, a silk shirt in midnight blue, hair tamed with product. He arrived late. "Ty askew." Apology tumbling out as we slid into the booth. Traffic from the airport. Claire flew in for a follow-up meeting. "Harmless. Claire." The name dropped like a stone in still water. "She's here." I kept my voice even, but the waiter sensed the chill, hovering with water refills. "Just business," he insisted. Menu up like a shield. Closing a deal on the AG Tech expansion. Dinner dragged. Courses blurring, seared scallops. Duck confit, punctuated by his phone vibrating incessantly. He silenced it twice, but on the third, glanced at the screen and paled. "Gotta take this." 1 second, he stepped out to the terrace, glass doors muffling his voice. But I caught fragments. "Not now." "He's here." "Yeah. Love you too." The words landed like shrapnel. I paid the bill, left cash for the valet, and slipped into the night, the valet's puzzled stare following me to the street. Uber home, tears blurring the neon. I curled on the bed, the sheets still scented with him, betrayal of vice around my ribs. He showed up at dawn, pounding the door until Lark threatened to call security. I let him in, hollow-eyed, and he collapsed at my feet. Words spilling, she kissed me. For the photo op, investors love the stable couple narrative. I pushed her away. Jesse, I swear, love you too, I quoted. Voice ash. Heard that part. His face crumpled. Habit. From the act. It means nothing, but I do. I stood. Distance a chasm. And this, it's poison, he begged. Raw and broken. But I turned away, the door clicking shut like a period on our sentence. Spring mocked me outside, blooms defiant in the sun, as I grieved the man who'd seen me, wondering if visibility was just another cage. Summer scorched in, unusual for Seattle. The air thick with heat that turned the sound to a shimmering haze and my apartment into a sweatbox of regrets. I avoided Belltown like a plague zone, routing runs through Green Lake instead, pounding pavement until lungs burned and thoughts fragmented. The grind became sanctuary and sentence, endless shifts blending into one another, faces blurring as I frothed milk with mechanical precision. Lark cornered me one humid afternoon, arms akimbo behind the counter. Spill. Walsh. You look like death warmed over. And not the sexy vampire kind. I caved over closing cleanup, mopping floors while recounting the gala implosion. Claire's kiss. Ryan's slip. The fracture lines wet ignored. She listened without judgment, then slid me a shot of espresso laced with whiskey from her flask. He's a fool, but he's your fool. Question is, can you rebuild on rubble? The words haunted my sketches that night. Ruined bridges sketched in charcoal. Figures reaching across voids with hands outstretched but empty. Freelance dried up in the heat, clients vacationing in the San Juans, and I took side gigs, storyboarding a web series about fractured queer families. The irony bitter as black coffee. Text from Ryan dwindled to silence after my blocks. But shadows of him lingered, a hoodie left in my closet, cedar cologne on a pillow I couldn't wash. Mid-July. The city exhaled in a heat wave break, clouds massing like mourners over the Cascades. I drove east on impulse, chasing cooler air to Leavenworth, the faux Bavarian town nestled in wheat fields and pine. The cabin ID dreamed of materialized via Airbnb, cedar logs, a deck overlooking the Wenatchee River, solitude wrapped in flannel quilts. Days blurred into hikes along Icicle Creek, water icy against sun-warmed skin, evenings with novels and fireflies winking like secrets. I journaled by lantern light, pages of rage at first, then grief, then glimmers of self. I am enough. Seen or not. Back in Seattle, tanned and tempered, autumn nipped at heels with equinox winds stripping leaves to gold carpets. The grind buzzed with pumpkin spice fervor, and I threw myself into a mural for the youth center, intertwined vines forming hearts, thorns retracted into blooms, a testament to resilience. Ryan reappeared unannounced one crisp October morning, not at the counter, but across the street, leaning on a lamppost with coffee from a rival shop, watching like a sentinel. Our eyes met through the window, and he nodded once, acknowledgement, not intrusion, before vanishing into the crowd. It became ritual, glimpses at markets, a shadow at my design meetup in Ballard, never pushing, just present. A note slipped under my door one night. Saw your mural sketch online. It's beautiful. You're healing. I'm trying too. Our attached was a clipping from his company's site. Caldwell Farms partners with LGBTQ plus nonprofits for inclusive AG tech. Progress. Quiet and unasked. Thanksgiving loomed. My invite to Mom's in Spokane a polite evasion. Instead, I hosted stragglers at the grind after hours. Lark, a couple baristas, takeout turkey from a food truck. Laughter echoed off exposed beams, but my eyes strayed to the door, half hoping, half dreading. It swung open at 9. Ryan silhouetted against streetlights. Pie in hand, pecan, from a recipe his sister swore by. Room for one more? He asked the group, but his gaze locked on mine. Lark elbowed me, grinning. Only if he sings karaoke. He did. Butchering, all I want for Christmas is you off-key. The room erupting as pie plates passed. Later, cleanup duo. He bumped my shoulder. Missed this. Missed you. Missed the chaos, I corrected, but softened it with a hip check. We walked Capitol Hill after, leaves crunching underfoot, breath fogging in the chill. At my stoop, he paused, hands in pockets. There's a cabin in the Cascades. Open next weekend. No strings. Just snow and silence. I searched his face, lines etched deeper. Eyes clear of storms, and nodded. Yeah. Let's try. Winter returned with vengeance, blanketing the mountains in powder that muffled the world. The cabin was rustic perfection, stone fireplace crackling, windows framing evergreens heavy with snow, a hot tub steaming on the deck. We arrived at dusk, Subaru fishtailing the last curve, laughter bubbling as we unpacked groceries, steaks, wine, Esmore's fixings. Dinner by firelight, stories flowing, his first awkward date post coming out, a guy who talked crypto nonstop, my ill-fated attempt at speed dating, fleeing after a vegan militant grilled me on ethics. Vulnerability wove in his dad's voicemail, gruff but thawing. Heard about the boy. Be happy. Son, my confession of therapy lapses, the fear that love always curdled. Night deepened, and we retreated to the lofted bed, blankets piled high, bodies seeking warmth. His touch was reverent, mapping me like sacred text, kisses lingering on pulse points until breaths synced in rhythm. I love you, he whispered against my skin, the words of vow etched in frost. All of you. Scars and sketches. I love you too, I echoed, the admission freeing, and we moved together, slow and sure, the cabin creaking like applause. Morning brought powder days, cross-country skis on trails glittering under sun, falls into drifts dissolving into snowball fights, red-cheeked and breathless. Evenings in the tub, jets rumbling as we talked futures, his app going national, my mural series expanding to galleries, a share place maybe overlooking the sound. No Claires, no ghosts, just us, building on solid ground. Back in Seattle, the thaw held. He met my mom over video, her smile tentative but warm. He looks at you like you're the whole sky. Jesse, his family dinner in Austin via proxy, sister live streaming the chaos. Pecan pie as peace offering. We navigated bumps, a delayed pitch leaving him cranky. My deadline panic sparking a spat, but talked through, hand clasped, emerging stronger. Spring bloomed again, but this time with roots. On a bench by the locks, salmon leaping defiant. He dropped to one knee, not ring, but a key to his loft. Our loft. Not proposal, he clarified, grinning through nerves. Invitation. Bill with me. Tears stung as I pulled him up, kissing him fierce. Yes. All in, the city stretched before us, vibrant and vast. Our story no longer fractured but woven, threads of pain into tapestry. Bully to beloved. The man who'd broken me, now the only one who'd mended the pieces into whole. Yet roots, though deep, don't immunize against storms. June arrived sweltering. The sound a mirror of blue skies masking undercurrents. Ryan's startup exploded. Funding rounds. Press and TechCrunch. A feature on queer entrepreneurs reshaping food systems. Celebrations blurred. Galas at the Museum of Pop Culture. Toasts with champagne flutes clinking like wind chimes, but success bred scrutiny. Reporters dug, unearthing old Austin photos, Ryan and Claire at events. Captions gushing power couple, ancient history, head dismiss. But the articles lingered online. Venomous comments slithering in. Broke her heart for this phase? I brushed it off at first. Focusing on my own ascent, the mural series picked up by a gallery in Pioneer Square. Opening night, buzzing with collectors in linen suits. Ryan beamed from the front row, arm around me for photos. But whispers followed, the jock and the artist. How quaint. Insecurities I thought buried resurfaced. Nights when head network late. Me alone with wine and what-ifs. Either rebound, the PR-friendly upgrade, the crack widened midsummer. A heat dome baking the city into torpor. Had been distant, buried in a merger with an East Coast firm. Calls curt, swamped. Babe. Love you. One sweltering Friday. I surprised him at the office, South Lake Union high-rise. Glass walls reflecting the Ferris wheel's lazy spin, armed with poke bowls and a sketch of our future cabin. Upgraded with a studio annex. His assistant waved me in, but the door was ajar. Voices spilling out. Claire, sleek in a sheath dress. Hair pinned like a crown, leaned over his desk. Hand on his shoulder. Laughter low and intimate. You always were the charmer. Remember that gala? We owned the room. He chuckled. Easy. Her fingers lingering as she tucked a stray paper into his collar. Miss this. Us. The bowl slipped from my hand. Tuna scattering like confetti on marble. They turned. Claire's eyes widening in faux surprise. Ryan's draining of color. Jesse. I bolted. Elevator dinging like a guillotine. Streets a blur of tourists and heat mirage. Home. I packed a duffel, essentials, sketchbook, the key he gave me, and drove south. No destination. Just escape. The Subaru 8 miles, Tacoma sprawl. Olympia's quiet. Until I washed up in Astoria, Oregon, at a motel overlooking the Columbia's roiling mouth. Days dissolved into fog, walks on the pier, sketching freighters against bruised skies, journaling fury that morphed to clarity. He saw me once. Now I see myself. Text bombarded. It was nothing. She's leaving tomorrow. Please. Voicemails cracked with desperation. I pushed her away. Jesse. Told her about us. Really us. Come back. I listened once. Heart twisting. Then powered off. Diving in a local art scene. A pop-up gallery. Where my sketches caught an eye. Leading to a commission for seascapes. A week in, his sister called. Number unblocked for emergencies. He's a wreck, she said. Voice thick. Flew here after you left. Spilled everything to Dad. They talked, really talked for the first time. He's fighting for you, but he needs you to fight too. The words pierced, stirring the embers of what we'd built. I drove back under starless skies, arriving at the loft at dawn, key turning like a confession. He was there, disheveled on the couch, eyes bloodshot. You came. We talked for hours, raw and unfiltered. His fear of losing the deal if he cut Claire loose publicly. Her manipulations for leverage. His shame in not severing sooner. I failed you, he admitted, tears carving tracks. But I won again. I share my abyss, the motel isolation, the sketches of solitude that revealed my strength. I don't need saving, Ryan. I need equal. He nodded, pulling a folder from the coffee table. Legal docs dissolving the partnership with Claire. Emails to investors outing the full truth. Done. All in. Forgiveness wasn't a switch, but a path. Therapy together. Sessions in a Belltown office with views of the monorail zipping past. Unpacking bully to lover. Scars to stars. Dates recommitted. Picnics in Discovery Park. His head in my lap as gulls wheeled overhead. Gallery crawls where head feigned expertise. Making me laugh till sides ached. Fall gilded the edges again. Leaves a mosaic underfoot. The merger closed without Claire. Headlines shifting to Caldwell Farms. Pioneering inclusive innovation. My Seascapes debuted in Portland. Ryan front row. Tears in his eyes at the dedication. For the man who taught me to see. Winter whispered in. First frost etching windows. On a snow-dusted night. The cabin called us back. Not escape, but anchor. In the hot tub. Steam rising like prayers. He took my hand. Marry me? Not for show. For us. The ring was simple, white gold band etched with intertwined vines, and I slipped it on. Yes, a whisper against his lips. The city below twinkled approval. Our story no longer survival, but symphony, bully redeemed. Hearts aligned. The real us. Finally. Fully seen. Yet even symphonies have codas. Moments of doubt testing the score. The engagement announcement rippled outward, social media ablaze with hearts and hashtags. His sister posting throwback college pics, carefully cropped to exclude shadows. My gallery crowd toasting with Pinot at the opening afterparty. But ripples stir depths. An old current surfaced, an anonymous email to Ryan's inbox. Forwarded to me in a moment of transparency. Screenshots from UW forums. Grainy photos of that Sigma Chi night. My sprawl on the floor caption Caldwell's bitch. Karma's a drag. It hit like a sucker punch. Dredging the mud, ID buried. Sleepless nights followed. Me staring at ceiling fans whirring indictments. Ryan pacing the loft with apologies that echoed hollow. Ancient shit, head insist. Deleting threads. But the poison seeped. Whispers at his investor dinners. A reporter's offhand. Heard you two have history. Colorful. I withdrew. Sketches turning abstract. Swirls of green and blue clashing like storm-tossed waves. Crisis crested in December. The holidays a minefield of family calls and forced cheer. His parents visited, first time, tentative bridge building over eggnog in the loft. Dad, grizzled ex-coach, clapped Ryan's shoulder awkward. Proud of you, son. And the boy, Jesse, right? Treat him right. Mom fussed with cookies. Eyes soft when she pulled me aside. He was lost before you. Thank you. It thawed something, but not the chill in my bones. New Year's Eve. The city erupted in planned chaos, fireworks over the Needle, streets thrumming with revelers. Wed planned intimate, dinner at our spot in Fremont. Then balcony countdown. But Ryan got pulled into an emergency board call. Investors spooked by a competitor leak. "Go ahead without me," he texted. "He'll be there by 10. I waited alone. Candlelit table mocking with cooling pasta. The clock ticking accusations. 10 became 11. Then midnight. Cheers from the street filtering up like taunts. A buzz at last. Stuck. "Love you. Happy New Year." The lie of it, another night second to his empire, snapped the thread. I left the ring on the table. Note scrawled, "Saw the real you tonight. Need space to see mine." Dawn found me at the airport. Red-eyed to Spokane. Mom's door opening to my tear-streaked face. She enveloped me without questions. The guest room a cocoon of quilts and chamomile. Days stretched, walks in Riverside Park, bundled against frost. Talking in fragments, college ghosts, engagement fears, the terror of losing self in love. "You're whole, Jesse," she said one snowy afternoon, mittens patching a scarf. "Don't let anyone dim that." Back in Seattle mid-January. The loft echoed empty. Ryan's things sparse. Had moved to a sublet in Queen and respecting the boundary. Texts were civil, gallery feedback, stunning. Murder signed, we did it. But undercurrents pulled, a care package at the grind. His handwritten card on truffles, for the artist who sweetens my days. I reciprocated with a sketch slipped under his door, us on the cabin deck. Hands linked. No storms in sight. Reconnection brewed slow, like Seattle roast. A neutral ground coffee, literally, at a neutral shop in Ballard, where we sat across scarred steam veiling awkward silences. "I get it," he started, fingers drumming the mug. The ring was pressure, not promise. I pushed too hard, scared of losing you to my mess. "Wasn't just you," I admitted. Old wounds reopened. Needed to remember him not that kid on the floor anymore. From there, rebuilding, weekly check-ins. No labels, just presence. Hikes in the Olympics, where exertion burned away barbs. Therapy doubles resuming. Now, with tools for conflict, I feel statements that diffuse bombs. Spring coaxed us outward, a weekend in the San Juans. Kayaking Orcas channels. Seals eyeing us curious as we laughed over capsized lunches. By summer, the ring returned, not as chain, but choice, slipped on during a sunset ferry ride. Bainbridge fading astern. "Partners," he said, kissing my knuckles. "Equals." The wedding was small, intimate, July bluff overlooking the sound. Wildflowers and whiskey, lark officiating in sequence. Vows exchanged barefoot in grass. His, "You saw the monster and loved the man." He'll spend life earning that. Mine, "You broke me open to heal." Together. Unbreakable. Life post-vows was mosaic, his app thriving. Community gardens sprouting in food deserts, my gallery show touring. Seascapes capturing queer resilience. Challenges came, a health scare for his dad. My freelance drought, but we weathered. Hand-clasped. The bully boy become bedrock. Years layered like patina. The cabin our retreat. Walls lined with sketches of gray-haired us. Grandkids hypothetical, but dreamed. In quiet moments, his head on my chest. Green eyes meeting blue. I knew, had been chaos once, but became clarity, the only manhood ever truly seen. and in seeing, set me free. The epilogue unfolded in autumn's gold, a decade distilled to essence. Seattle's skyline had evolved, greener spires, pedestrian bridges arching like welcoming arms, but our rhythm held steady, mornings with coffee and crosswords. His tech empire mellowed to consultancy. My art a steady flame in a home studio overlooking the canal. Wrinkles etched laugh lines now, silver threading our hair. But the pull between us endured, magnetic as first touch. One crisp October eve, echoes of that rain-slicked reunion. We walked the locks, salmon run thinning but persistent, leaping against odds. His hand in mine, callous from garden trowels, squeezed gentle. "Remember the first time I saw you here?" he murmured, nodding to the fish ladder. Thought I'd drown in regret. I leaned into him, wind tousling what remained of my tousled brown. Drowned together. Came up stronger. Dinner at the Grind, now co-owned. A queer hub with murals of our early sketches, surrounded by faces we'd mentored, baristas turned activists, artists blooming under our wing. Lark's toast drew laughs, from bully to ball and chain. "Jesse, you tamed the beast." Ryan winked, arm around my chair. Lucky beast. Night deepened in the loft. Balcony lanterns swaying. City lights a constellation below. We danced slow to an old playlist. Elliott Smith crooning vulnerability, his cheek against mine. Whispers of tomorrows, a sabbatical in Vermont. Cabins and canvases. Writing the memoir we'd joked about for years. In bed, bodies familiar as home. Lovemaking a quiet symphony, touches reverent. Breaths synced in gratitude. "You're my horizon," he breathed after, fingers tracing my ring. "Always, and you're the light," I replied, sleep claiming us twined. Decades later, in a Cascades cabin dusted with first snow, grandkids adopted, fierce and freckled, toddling by the fire, had squeezed my hand, green eyes dimmed but deep. "Worth every scar," head say. An ID smile. The boy once broken, now boundless. Knowing the bully had shattered me, had become the mirror reflecting my whole.